Good morning.
Good morning.
How you doing today,
I
Graciela?
I'm all right. It is 40 something
How you
and
doing today, Graciela?
40 and rainy. But at least it's not 7 and freezing. So
Yeah, when you get the precipitation, as long as you're like well away from the 30, like that. I'm always impressed, although I haven't been back to the cold since I started doing Sweat Lodge, which we have to
mm.
talk about that today.
Oh,
Um,
I'm dying to talk about it today.
um, but I'm always impressed I've been in Florida for 30 years now, and every time I go back to Wisconsin in the winter, I'm always like, am I still going to be able to tolerate the cold? And I like laugh at myself because I'll zip up my jacket and I'll be like, okay, we're good. And then the next thing you know, I'm like sweating, I'm unzipping my jacket. I'm like, yeah, you can take the girl out of Wisconsin, but you can't take the Wisconsin out of the girl.
It is in
So
your blood.
the only time I couldn't handle it was, and this was, I don't know how many years ago.
Was this
Um,
the football game?
it was the football game. It was like the Thanksgiving football game, and they were like inducting Brett Favre into the Hall of Fame, and Bart Starr was there. Like it might have been Bart Starr's like last appearance um at Lambeau Field before he passed away, and
Mm.
but that game, it was like 34 degrees with precipitation, which essentially means it's cold as fuck and it's raining. And so, like, even though I had full on head to toe rain gear, but you're sitting out
Wow.
there in the rain for hours and it starts to seep in around your neck, up through your sleeves. And like right after halftime, I started like shivering for real, like that, like, and I
Right.
looked at my brother and I'm like, you can stay if you want, but I physically cannot stay here. Like, I'll go inside the stadium and watch on the screen in there. And my brother's like, no, let's go out, walk back to the bar with it. Because there's some bars around the stadium that you can pay to park there.
Uh,
There's a lot of people like you go and you pre-game at the bar and then you go to the stadium and you get to leave your car there during the game. So he and I
mm.
walked back and watched the rest of the game in indoor comfort.
That
That's
is some
like literally
commitment.
the only time that I couldn't tolerate the cold. So,
Wow.
um, you don't want that precipitation when it's in the 30s, but if you're in the 40s, you'll be fine.
Well, and let's face it, I'm mostly indoors, just that little run. Well, I can't run I don't want to run because I'm afraid of like slipping and falling, mostly because I'm not so much afraid of getting injured, but I'm afraid of like having to lay out there while I gather myself and then it's really going to be cold. So like I
No,
always
but
dress like
getting injured is for real. One of my longtime clients, I actually met with her virtually yesterday because she did fall, broke a vertebrae, got a concussion. Like, the ice is real, people.
the ice is real, I'm telling you. And I mean, I had like an ice meltdown, so to speak, a couple of weeks ago when it was like really, really cold and it wasn't real snowy, but there was just enough of a thin layer of ice to like absolutely freak me out. And I just had a fucking meltdown. I was like, I'm not doing this. I'm not going. I'm not leaving. Like, I'm not. Like, I was standing on my ramp and the ramp went like that. And I was like, and if I finish going down this ramp, how am I going to get back up? Like, no, I'm just not going to do that. Like, there's nowhere I need to be that needs me that bad. So, yeah, I have to say one of the my son yesterday last night he was like, oh, like how much longer with this cold? He's like, this is crazy, and I'm like, we're halfway through. We're almost there. And, it's going to be well worth it. Like once all the flowers and everything come up. But boy, do I understand like hibernation and what it means to slow down this time of year and things like that. And a lot of it has been forced upon me because I'm not used to that. I'm used to January is just as productive as July, like but not here. Nope, not here. I mean, it's yeah. Graciela is learning a lot real fast. So
Are you having a little culture shock?
I'm having a little weather shock. Yeah. It's been interesting, but beautiful. It's like everything else in life, right? Like it's beautiful and terrifying all at the same time. That's kind of the general like theme of my life. Maybe that's something good for my tombstone. Exciting and terrifying all at the same time.
I love it. Well, since I mentioned the sweat lodge, and our topic today is how do you incorporate spirituality into a busy schedule? And I don't necessarily know that this is busy schedule appropriate, because sweat lodge is it's a multiple hour event. And even for me, since I host it, it's essentially an all day event, because even before anybody gets here, I am preparing everything in the backyard for everybody. And but we did have sweat lodge this past Sunday. And one thing that was interesting lately is, like, people will from time to, pray for me or pray for this person or whatever. And it's like, yeah. But in the last several weeks, I have been asked by more people for specific prayers. And I'm like, okay, I got you. Not that I don't pray every day, but, like, sweat lodge is coming. Like, I feel like that is just an incredibly powerful place to pray. And, people think of sweat lodge as like, oh, I'm just going in to sweat and detoxify and da-da-da. And then I'm like, going to sweat lodge is like going to church. And so we do this, we create these prayer bundles. And so, they're little pieces of cloth that we put tobacco in, because in their tradition, tobacco is how you send your prayers to Creator. And so we wrap these little bundles of tobacco on a string, and then they get strung inside the sweat lodge. But like, while you're making the prayer bundles, you're like putting your prayers into the bundle. And I've done them before, but I was like, okay, I've got all these specific prayers to put in and my own prayers to put in. And so someone came to just like tell me also, as the womb of this sweat lodge, I should also be creating prayer flags, fresh flags to put in each time we have ceremony. So that was new to me. But as he goes to tell me this, I just start bawling my eyes out, because I'm like feeling all the energy of these prayers that I'm putting together. And then he's like, okay, we'll do it together, and we'll go by the fire and do it when you're done with your prayer bundles. So I finish my prayer bundles, and then I go over there, and we're making these prayer flags, and one for each direction. And he's like saying all these prayers as we're doing it, and I'm just sitting there bawling my eyes out.
Wow.
What is going on? Like, it's just the energy. I could, yes, it was emotion, but it was also just like this energy that I couldn't even put a label on. And then when we're ready to go in, someone has to smudge out the sweat lodge itself inside and out. And so most of the time I do that, but people are coming to learn, and so sometimes Chief will have one of the other women do it so they can have the experience of doing that. And so I'm cleaning out that, and then I'm like smudging. I have to smudge everybody before they go in, and I'm like, holding it together while I'm doing it, but I can still feel all this energy of like, I'm gonna cry. And so we get in, and like, I'm just in this, like, I can't even describe the experience I had. It felt like every cell of my body had separated and was vibrating, and I was like, all the breathing, I was toning, like, I don't even know what was going on. And even, lately now, Chief has been having me pour for second door, and like, he like, because I'm sitting right next to him, he's like aware of what's going on. Like, he didn't even suggest I before. And like, even when it was done, I couldn't even stand up. Like, you crawl out of the sweat lodge because you can't stand in there. And it's also out of respect that you know,
Mm,
exit and enter on your knees. And
mm.
like, I was like, I knew I couldn't even attempt to stand. And there were like people there like wanting to help me. I'm like, no, I'm not standing. I just went and laid on my belly on Mother Earth.
Wow.
And I forgot to mention too, like while I was in there, I feel like the only thing that kept me together was I was like digging my hands like as deep
Mm.
as I could into the dirt. And Mother Earth was just like, I got you. And my strength is your strength. And I'm always here to support you. And yeah, all that craziness. And I'm just laying there on the ground, like going, I hope the ants don't bite me. And finally got up and got some water and got some fruit in me. And then I go to shower and I'm like, what was that in there? And like, I hear cellular reconstruction. I'm like, okay, I am fully reconstructed today.
You look bright, you look glowy, you look crisp, you look clear. I mean, it's really, really fascinating that you had that experience. And that is a drug-free experience,
Yes.
right?
And I
Like a
share
medicine.
this because, you
Yeah.
know, people are like, why do you sweat? Why do you sweat? And I'm like, it's it's like going to church. It's my spiritual practice of this time. I don't know like how long sweat lodges will be part of my life. Like right now I don't see it not being a part of my life because of um not every sweat is like that. They're all unique and different. And but I'm also not the only one that has had these kinds of experiences inside the sweat. So you have the opportunity to go experience a sweat lodge ceremony somewhere, I highly recommend you do it. And I know like a lot of people express to me too that they're afraid.
Sure.
And as long as you are going to a legit sweat lodge, like not some crazy person who just decides to build one in their backyard and because they think it's cool, um, you know, like Chief has all of us. And even you know, yesterday was the second time he was pouring water on me during the ceremony
Mhm.
to like, and I know he's not just pouring the water, but he's energetically there supporting, um, praying, all of that to, um, so I could get through it. And what was interesting was it had nothing to do with the heat. Like I was not hot. Yes, I was sweating because we're in the sweat lodge and you can't
Sure.
not sweat in there, but it wasn't me struggling with the heat. Like in the beginning, the first several sweat lodges, it was like, I can't take this heat. I don't know how I'm going to make it through. But like,
Mm.
one of the women that showed up, she sat through one door. Like that was what she felt capable of doing that day, and that was completely fine. And she spent the rest of the day supporting the fire keeper, with the stones and sitting out. I have a hammock, and she was like sitting in the hammock, and which is really close to the sweat lodge. So she was still part of the energy in the ceremony. So even if you can't stay in through the entire ceremony, you can still be part of that process.
Yeah, that's beautiful. I mean, we always talk about how all the things that we offer are practices of choice. You get to choose to participate and you get to choose to walk out when you don't feel good. And there's a lot to be said for sticking with it. Absolutely, of course. But no one's chaining you down, right? You're not locked in. They don't lock the blanket, right? Like you get to walk out as needed, and that's okay. Now I do think it is interesting to push yourself and see what you are willing to experience. Someone said, how uncomfortable are you willing to be to get what you want?
Oh,
And that's a really solid question. But that's our question today is, how do you incorporate spirituality into a busy schedule? And you said, sweat lodge and busy schedule might not go together, but I think they probably do go together the best. Because when you have that busy schedule and you're feeling off balance, then that's a red flag for you. Like, notice, right? If you feel pulled in 20 different directions and you feel like you can't make time for an experience like this, something's wrong. It may look like success, it may smell like success, but inside, I think, right, that it's off balance. How many multimillionaires aren't, happy, or frankly even suicidal. So don't equate busyness with success with happiness.
Yeah, I feel like that is busy is like a badge of honor for so many people. And I'm like, I don't want that badge. And it's also like sometimes people look at my schedule, which is insanely busy, and yours too. But like all of these things are things that I want to do and bring me so much joy to do that it doesn't actually feel busy doing it.
Right.
Yesterday I worked a full day, and then right after I was done, seeing my clients, I hosted a course for empaths, teaching them how to recognize their empathy and answering the question, how do you know if you're an empath? If you hear me talking, you're an empath. Because we all are. It's just, are you aware that you are, or you aren't, or you're not? And so many people are walking around at the whim of other people's stuff, and they don't even know it because they're not tuning in and being aware. But I taught that whole class, an extra 2 hours at the end of my day, and it was just beautiful. And like seeing the aha moments, really exciting. There were 2 men there. I can't say enough how excited I am that more and more men are showing up for these things, because it has been women doing the majority of this work, and kudos to all of you. Like, we've done enough of that work that now more and more men are feeling called and are feeling safe to come in and do the work with us. And I think that is so important. Also, tomorrow's full moon. We both have our cacao ceremonies coming up. I have more men signed up right now for this cacao ceremony than women, which just is blowing my mind. And I'm super excited. There are still some spots left, and I'm like, come on, women, come on and join in. And also, like, it is to show the men that we've got their back and we're in this together. And it's not us and them, it's all of us together. And so,
yeah. I love seeing that kind of balance. I love seeing men show up like that. Every time I see men show up like that, I think, my God, these are like the strongest, coolest men I've ever seen in my life. As much as I love me a good lumberjack, a lumberjack that can sit in a circle and just, calm down enough to experience something and learn something that they maybe haven't had before. I don't know. Maybe I'm one of those, what is it, sapiosexual, where like I'm attracted to intelligence. and I think being open-minded and open to new experience is so intellectual. Like, it's so, I don't know, smart. You can be strong, and I love protector men too. Like, I love that too. And particularly the older I get, like every man I see, I feel like I just want to hug you like a mom. And I think that's part of what I love about those ceremonies, because if you think about it, men really get kind of cheated, with the affection department, particularly if you're raised in one of those toxic environments where boys don't cry, that kind of thing. I remember I used to work for somebody, a gentleman who had 2 boys, I want to say, and he would tell me how his 20-something-year-old sons would still cuddle with him. And this was before I had children. And I thought, man, that is like, and he was like an ex-Marine, like he was a man's man, quote unquote. Like, and to know that he was able to hold that level of intimacy with his sons, like, how beautiful is that, right? And then how do those sons take that into their marriages and their parenting? And you can be a Marine, you can still go kill things, whatever, do whatever it is that you do. But keep a little piece of your heart open and gentle, because that's why you do those things, right? Like, so anyway, I love that you have men showing up. I think it's the coolest thing in the world. And yeah, I had the chakra balancing class. I had a couple come recently, husband and wife, and they were both just like, we know a little bit, but we want to know more and we want to understand a little bit more. And so we had our class, and the gentleman was just as engaged as his wife, so really, it's just really neat. It's just really neat. So safe spaces for everyone.
Absolutely. So back to our incorporating spirituality into busy lives. For me, I just think about like probably 90% of my life is just spiritual because I make everything spiritual. And drinking the cacao can be, yes, there's plenty of people that are just chugging cacao and there's no spirituality in it. But for me, just having gratitude to the cacao, which in indigenous cultures is a master plant, which means it's here to teach us. And just having some reverence for the cacao while I'm making it. And yeah, it's a little bit different. I'm here drinking it while we're having this conversation. So it's a little less reverent, but for sure, I have gratitude for this cacao and everything that it's going to do for me today, because this stuff really sustains me and keeps me going and just makes my life better. But also, like any food or drink can be spiritual. Like this is one habit that I don't know why I can't get myself truly like in it and doing it every time, but I love when I see people blessing their food before they eat it. And like the joke is always for me when someone makes something, like, do I taste the love that they put in the food when they made it? And years ago, when I had my big physical therapy clinic and multiple staff and everything, in the afternoon, one of my staff members, it was his job to make the afternoon espresso. And, we would do it with the spuma that you take, the first little drippings out of the mocha and you put it in the coffee and you just mix it until it becomes foam.
Right.
Those, if you haven't had that experience, you must have it. But so he would do that every afternoon and come around with the little espresso cups. And he'd bring me mine, I'd sip it, and he'd come back a little later to pick up the cup, and he'd be like, how was it? And I would call him out, and I'm like, there was no love in there today. And he's like, I knew you would notice. He's like, I just didn't have the time today. I had to make it in a rush. But he was like always amazed that I could taste when he like put love into it and when he did it. Sure. And, just those little things, it's just intention and thought.
It really is. It really is. One of my favorite teachers, Thich Nhat Hanh, he talked about like walking meditation, like doing your dishes could be a meditation, anything you do with focus and intention and attention can be a spiritual practice, and if you think about it from a practical standpoint, it gets you out of your head. It gets you out of the what's happening in the world, what crisis is around me, what do I have to do later, like worrying about the past, worrying about the future. Really, it's about being here and now and challenge yourself. How often can you just be here now? It's a lot harder than you think if you don't practice it, but when you practice it, it feels so good. And that's the thing about the busy schedule, right? So I had a busy schedule until I didn't, until I said, you know what? I'm not going to do 7 meetings today. I'm going to do 1 meeting today. And the next meeting was just going to have to wait until tomorrow. And the meeting's going to have to wait after that. And it just is, I met, particularly like when I was starting my business, I used to say that in Fort Lauderdale, I really owe the success of my business to every coffee shop in like a 2-mile radius of downtown, because that's what I did. I would meet people for coffee. And, you're like starting a new business. It feels like desperate times. So I drank a lot of coffee and had a lot of meetings. And thank God, because I loved everyone that I met, and definitely have developed some lifelong friendships thanks to those cups of coffee. But then I met someone who said, I only have, I forget the number. It was like 50, or it must have been 50 or 40 spots to have breakfast with me. So I open my calendar. It's something like 8 a.m. every Tuesday. That is my come have a cup of coffee with me. I will sit with you. I will give you whatever advice you want to hear. We can get to know each other, etc. But I'm only doing it once a week for an hour. That's it. And it almost became like a prize to be able to get one of these coveted positions with this person, because they had such a strict schedule. I have another friend that religiously at 5 o'clock, her out of office comes on, and you can send her an email having known her for 20 years. And it's like, sorry, we're out of the office right now. We'll be back to you tomorrow. And every time I see that, I'm like, man, those are some sexy boundaries. Like, that's amazing. So yeah,
Um,
for me, the morning rituals, we've talked about that, ad nauseum. The mindful breathing, that's another good one, is just kind of taking the time to breathe intentionally. And call me a lazy practitioner, but I love, 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 my favorite thing is to set an intention before I go to sleep. I used to say this before I understood how and why it was happening, but I used to say, whenever I have a problem, I just go to sleep. And when I wake up in the morning, I have the answer. And I just thought it was like something really cool that happened to me. I don't know. But now I realize it's so much deeper than that. It is my intention. It is my higher self doing the work. It is my higher self in a different dimension, call it whatever you want, telling me, here's how this works. And so now when I go to sleep, it's almost like, I don't know, going to Disneyland. It's like, okay, we're going in, and it's exciting to go to sleep because I get to see whatever I want to see. I get to ask whatever question I have. I get to try and resolve whatever issue is going on. So yeah, I love that one.
yeah. Um, so I've, in my aging here, I'm like grateful this wonderful body of mine has been strong and flexible and everything throughout my life. It has supported me in so many ways. But since turning 50, my body's like, bitch, like, you got to take better care of us. And so one of the ways that I'm doing this is I've been going to yoga. And yoga was a part of my young life, and then moving and all kinds of stuff happening, it like vanished from my life for like 20 years. And through that time, I had tried going to some different yoga classes and stuff, and it just like none of them ever felt good to me. Like it was just, full of Barbie dolls and their Lululemons, and I love you all, but that's not my space. They're all doing handstands and tricks, and you know, okay, yeah, that can be fun, but that's not why I'm going to yoga. And so the studio that I've landed in, just it feels like home because there's every size, shape, age, ethnicity. Like it's what I'm about. And it's a safe space for everyone to be. And but one of the things that I love is the beginning of every class, you sit and you put your intention to the practice. Like, why are you there?
Beautiful.
And I'm not there just to sweat and bend my body. Like, my intentions are very clear that I am there to keep this functioning in the way that I need to function it so I can fulfill my mission here on earth. And um, it definitely makes the practice very different than just going and doing a bunch of yoga poses. So
Yeah.
that's my 2 cents about that.
I love it. I love it. Anything with intention. Speaking of, I wanted to talk about our journal real quick because that has been out there for a hot minute now. And I am super excited with the number of people that have made that purchase. So check it out for sure. It is on the website. It is a guided journal. It's 30 days of questions to get you moving in the right direction. I have so many beautiful journals, and sometimes I just stare at the page. That's right, Pam. Thank you. Spiritual intention. And sometimes I stare at the page like, "Ugh, what do I even want to write down today? Like, what am I going to write down? I went to the grocery store and whatever. Like, not every day feels like a deep and spiritual experience. Sometimes it's just getting through the day. But with a guided journal, answering a question is so much easier, and it feels like the time that I'm spending writing is so much more intentional, and it's getting me to where I want to go. So I really love the journal that we came up with. I hope you guys like it too. Definitely give it a look. It's super affordable, and we would love feedback on it. Because if we did one good one, we're going to do another one.
Yeah, the prompts, I can't tell you how many times I've started this journal practice and then I stop it because one day I wake up and I don't know what to write anymore. And so prompts are they're a gift, to help you explore yourself more, learn more about yourself. It's interesting to me how little people know themselves.
Yeah. Well,
And
we're not raised to really consider ourselves, right?
yeah.
Wasn't it Descartes or somebody that was know thyself, since then, who the heck has ever said that? When in school, did anyone ever ask you, to really think about yourself and your experiences and your life, to reflect? Even that sounds like a luxury, right? Like, oh, do I have time to reflect? That's crazy. But with
But
a
so
guided
many of
journal,
us, everybody's walking around doing what society tells them they should do. And this is why so many people are unhappy, depressed, struggling, because they think they have to be something other than who and what they are.
yeah.
And journaling and those prompts are especially helpful to really tune into who is the real you. And I'm giving all of you who are listening right now permission to stop being what you think society, your parents, your friends, anybody else. You don't have to be what anybody thinks that you should be, other than what you be, who you truly are, and honor yourself. That's the greatest spiritual gift out there.
Well, and I'll tell you, with me and photography, a lot of clients come to me not really knowing who they are. They've been a wife and they've been a mom and they've been a student and an employee, and they have fulfilled all of the roles and done exactly everything as they should have done, quote unquote, checked off all the boxes. And they know that they want to feel good. But when I say, okay, well, who are you? Like, tell me. And they're like, I don't know. I haven't thought about that in a long time. So it's definitely a way to kind of rediscover yourself. Remember the things that made you happy, the things that you wanted to explore again. Figure out maybe why some things show up in your life the way that they do, repeatedly, right? So I think the journal has huge value, and from a logistics standpoint, it's a fillable PDF. So as soon as you finish your transaction, you get the link right away. You keep it, download it, it's yours. I can't see your answers. It's a freestanding document, so you get to type in it. And honestly, you could probably do it 3 and 4 or 5 times if you wanted to. It's yours forever. So yeah, it's super valuable. And there's places to write, there's places to reflect, there's places to pause. There's some good inspirational quotes in there too. And since I did the graphic design, it is also fabulous. And then we have a retreat coming up. I don't want to end this podcast without talking about it because it's going to be so amazing. I know it's February. Our retreat is in June. There's not a lot of time left. There are still a couple of beds available, but that one is going to be absolutely stunning. We've got all the information on the website, but if you want to talk through it, definitely give us a call. That one is going to be, that one's going to be phenomenal. Four elements coming up in June in the North Georgia mountains.
Whoop whoop! I can't wait. And I know it will be here before. Like, I'm gonna blink an eye, and I'll be hopping on my plane to Atlanta to come up there and lead this with you. And I've been loading up the testimonial videos that we have from our prior retreat, and like watching them just gets me so excited about the next one because we all suffer from imposter syndrome from time to time, and like we put this stuff together and we're like, is it good enough? And then when we see these women after the retreat, it's just like, wow, that was amazing. And yes, time to plan the next one. Let's go, let's do this. So check it out, reach out if you have any questions, and again, don't let fear or discomfort stop you from doing it. And if you have, like, you want to be there, but there's things that you can't figure out how to manage to make sure that you can get yourself there, reach out. We're at pros at making the impossible possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And particularly to our prior attendees, each retreat is different. Each retreat has a different theme, a different set of teachings, experiences. This one is going to have forest therapy as well. We're going to be knee deep in nature. I will have bug spray just in case. But every part about this retreat is going to be different and exciting, and you're different, right? So even if you did a retreat before, you're not the same person you were when you started that last retreat. Now you're a different person. And so this retreat, we really try and do all of them so that we explain everything that's going on as it's going on. You're never asked to do something that you're uncomfortable with, and we never put you in a situation where you don't know what's happening next. I used to teach high school, and I have my twins, and I know that the more I explain to you what's coming, the easier it is to go with the flow. So that's a big part of it too. So you get to know everything, and again, practice of choice. And it's going to be gorgeous. And who couldn't use a handful of days, away from this busy schedule? So carve out the time, do it.
All right. I think that was a pretty full episode, chock full of all kinds of goodness.
Yes. And thank you to all of you guys watching live. I appreciate you so much. I love you. I am excited for you guys to be here. And you guys, I appreciate you. And those of you that are absolutely committed to watching on the replay, I love you too.
All right. Have a magical day, everyone.
Bye.